Welcome back to Office Talk. Today's question, what's the best training split for strength, hypertrophy, and fat loss? And do they differ? So strength, hypertrophy, and fat loss, getting stronger, building muscle, burning fat, they're three different goals. However, training doesn't really need to change too much within those. There's kind of some principles in this hierarchy of importance when it comes to training, and as long as those things are in line, it doesn't really matter what kind of program you're doing during a fat loss phase compared to a hypertrophy phase, as long as you're chasing that goal. So what I tell people, focus on either strength or hypertrophy. If you want to do a combination of both, you can do something like power building. You can refer back to the video we did on that. But in general, we're gonna be leaning more so in one way or the other, depending on what our main goal is. If your goal is fat loss, you are going to train for that other goal that you have aspirations with, and you are gonna diet for fat loss. So a good way to approach fat loss is I'm going to follow a hypertrophy program because when I lose this fat, I want to look jacked. My goal is aesthetic. It's not really how much weight I can lift. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to train as if I'm trying to build muscle. Then I am going to diet and potentially add a little bit of cardio. That's gonna supplement my fat loss. The hypertrophy training is going to maintain my muscle mass. Right? So between strength, hypertrophy, and fat loss, there's not really much of a difference. Now, if we're considering what split to follow in each of those categories, again, it doesn't really matter. If we look at the training split or the training frequency of you, it's really just an organizational tool. It's a tool that you use to organize your volume and intensity, plain and simple. So if you do a full body approach, you can build strength, you can lose fat, and you can build muscle. If you do a 4-day upper lower split, you can accomplish all those things. If you do a 5-day upper lower push pull legs, you can accomplish all those. A 6-day push pull legs, an anterior posterior push pull program that's full body. You can do so many different things. It doesn't really matter as long as you are doing something that you enjoy, you can consistently adhere to, and you are motivated to get after it in the gym with. If you are following something that doesn't fire you up, your intensity and effort will lower, your progress and your results will lower with that. So it's really, really important to not get lost in the weeds and think about what's the best split. If you're hitting your volume, pick a split that you enjoy and it allows you to adhere and organize the amount of volume you need to do. So if we look at hypertrophy, for example, about 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week is probably about best. It's a big range, and the more of a beginner you are, the lower on that range you are. The more of an advanced individual you are, the higher on that range you are. You can stay within that 10 to 20 and change per body part as well. So if you have a body part that's lagging or something that's a little bit harder for you to grow, it's a stubborn muscle group, you can put that more towards the 20 and put the rest towards the 10 because your systemic volume, your overall volume needs to be in that middle point so you don't burn out and get your nervous system too tired and fatigued and not be able to train with intensity because you're just run down. You can't do everything at 20 sets per muscle group per week, for example. You might have a couple muscle groups at 20, a couple at 15, a couple at 10, right? And you categorize them by which ones you want to prioritize. Now, the key with a training split is how do I hit that volume amount? So let's say I'm just keeping it even, 15 sets per muscle group across the entire week for every single muscle group. What split is going to fire me up, keep me motivated, and it's going to allow me to hit that volume? A full body approach, for example, that might be difficult to hit a lot of volume because your sessions are either going to be really long or you have to do back-to-back days, 5 days in a row, which for some people can be hard on recovery. An upper-lower split might be a better example because you can categorize your days and really attack volume on each of those days in an isolated form. But maybe that leaves you in the gym for an hour, hour and a half, and you don't want to be there that long. You'd rather be there 6 days a week, but only for 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe a push-pull leg split is better for you because you can isolate it even more, still hit your frequency of 2 times a week per muscle group, but easily hit the volume because you're not in there for hours and hours on end. So there's a million ways to skin a cat at the end of the day. What training split is going to be best for each of those categories? There really isn't an answer to that. I always want to assess the client, see where they are at, see what they have experience with, what they've enjoyed in the past, what their mindset is around getting a pump versus lifting heavy versus burning fat, getting their heart rate up. Because if somebody's really after that metabolic effect, they love when their heart rate gets up, they love getting sweaty, and that's what they focus on to create intensity, I'm gonna go with a full body approach. But if somebody's like me and they're like, I really enjoy just focusing on a muscle group, really getting a pump, I'm gonna go with an upper lower or push-pull legs. So it's more about the mindset of the individual, focusing on what motivates them to train and allows you to organize your volume across the board. And last but not least, there's some differences between strength and hypertrophy just from an intensity standpoint. The more focused you are on strength, the lower your rep ranges should be, not because you can't build muscle with low rep ranges, but because that allows your intensity to increase in those lifts. I'm gonna lift heavy for 3 than I would for 8. So it's less volume, but it's higher intensity. I'm gonna get more strength gains. If I'm leaning more towards on the volume side, the hypertrophy side, I'm gonna go for sets of 8, 10, 12, 15. It's not as heavy, but I can get more volume done with the same total fatigue on my system and build more muscle, because volume is more important for hypertrophy and intensity is more important for strength. If your goal is fat loss, you can pick either one of those categories, whichever one is you're more focused on for the long term, and then just add some cardio and make sure you're following your diet properly to lose fat. That's exactly how you should approach finding the best split for you.